Let's talk about 17 games in an NFL season, which is looking more and more likely. A number of news outlets, Washington Post amongst them, reported that the CBA going on at the moment, which seems to have been going on forever, probably won't get resolved now until post the Super Bowl.
Yep.
But one of the likely outcomes is that the players and the league look like they're going to agree for a 17th game, which might well be played, if it is agreed, on neutral territory, which means a lot more international.
I like where you're going with this.
Series games.
I like where you're going.
Maybe even playoff expansion as well is on the cards, expanding the number of teams making the playoffs from 12 to 14. So let's start firstly with the regular season game expansion.
Okay.
As a former player, how does that sit with you? And how do you think it's going to sit with players? Are they going to look at it and think, great, more money, which means I get more money, I've got a short shelf life as a player, this is a good thing? Or are they going to think the wear and tear I'm taking on my body is already at the max degree? This is a step too far.
I think that it's one more game, and that is not a deal killer, right? One more game. I think players understand the salary cap gets larger. That helps you. And let's be honest, you can think about all the years you think you have. You only got the year you got, so you better get it all out of that year. You just don't know what's going to happen. And I will say, especially these young players, they understand that NFL is trying to go global. And they like that. This is cool. Like people are now getting exposed to different parts of the world because they get to play the games. You heard Todd Gurley when he came out here. On Twitter he made a comment like, "When I retire, I'm coming there to London." Like that would have never happened. So I think that now players understand that they're going to play globally, and that part is cool. And I like that.
So it's a generational thing in particular.
Yes, I think it very much so. It's just if you come in the league and this is what it is, what you don't know anything else. And that's what happens. People get stuck in their ways. They don't like things. These coaches have been around forever, so they don't like anything. They don't like leaving the facility, right? They want things the same, easy. But players, you're like, this is cool. This is what we are.
Eventually, I get that side of it. But back to the physicality and the wear and tear, because we're seeing more than ever now, because of what we understand through science and through research, more than ever, players calling it early, calling their career early because they don't need, you hear this often, I don't need the game anymore. I've made my money. I don't want to end up really, really banged up as a result of it. So is there still going to be that element of it, you think, that players are going to be wary of being put through more?
I think that's weird. That's very, when people say that and do that, I'm always, I'm not sure where they're coming from because, look, the game, you don't retire for the game. The game retires you. So I think it comes to a point, if you're lucky, like some people, like my buddy Strahan, 15 years, and he's just like, I'm done. And it's because he understands what it takes to get ready. And he's like, I can't do that anymore. I mean, that's rare. And that's kind of, when you're playing this game, you are giving your body. You are. And there is a point where you say, I can't do this anymore. And that's fine if you can do that. Or you just can't do it anymore. But if you love the game, you're just going to play it. You're just going to play it in the way that, they're protecting each other now and looking after each other. I think most people play till they can't. I mean, most people, I think it's a small, maybe 10% are going through that, I'm going to shut it down. Most people play till they can't.
Exception to the rule.
Yeah.
What is the impact going to be, J. Bell, on preseason games if this happens? Because that might be the payoff. That at the moment you have 4 preseason games of which the starters only factor significantly in one of them, and the other 3 are really there to work out those 6, 7, 8 spots that are up for grabs on a 53-man roster, right?
Yes.
So what will be the impact there if we expand the regular season and minimize the preseason?
So I was thinking about this. The first thing I thought was a guy like me who had to make the team and grind it out. I needed every one of those preseason games. I needed it because I had to, through the process of the preseason, the 4th game I had to go out there and perform just to make the team. And so that was important to me. But we're talking really 5 to 10 guys on the team that are battling. So it doesn't benefit the team as a whole. It does certain players. But then I thought, now that I'm thinking about it, I think the way that it's okay to shorten the preseason because it's what the Patriots do. Do team practices. I think you focus more on the team practices. You use your preseason for that. Obviously, a team you're not going to play during the season because you don't want them to have any tips on you. But I think that competitive nature allows you to evaluate the younger players on your team, so you don't have to have those preseason games.
There are certain coaches that seem to buy into that already, right? So, and the Rams and McVay in particular seem very dismissive of preseason games and want to approach preseason in a different way. Tomlin and the Steelers, from what I understand, you might have more intel than me on this. They go at it, right?
It's go time. They're a physical team. They practice.
Yeah.
Hard. They hit. So that gives them an opportunity to do that.
But let's look at someone like Belichick, and I don't know really what his position specifically is on 4 preseason games, but what I do know about Belichick is that he is a master of strength and depth. Obviously loves special teams. I know almost as much as you do, Jay.
Yeah, buddy.
And would argue that actually the fine margins and where a number of games and seasons can be won and lost are not necessarily always about your superstars, but about the guys that come in and need to do a job in a particular situational moment. And they're often those guys, and that element is fine-tuned through preseason, right?
Yes, and it's about what kind of teacher you are. I almost think this, Nat. If you gave them a little more practice time, you say no preseason, more practice time, right? More with your team. And you had a guy that's a teacher like Belichick. The thing he's doing is he's teaching the players on his roster and their skill sets how to execute. So he's giving you actionable items on how to do things because he knows when it's on the line, you might have to win a game for him. So I'm going to coach you hard and give you the skills I'm going to do my starter. That's the way he approaches it. A lot different than other coaches. I've been around coaches that just coach the guys they think are important. Crazy. It makes no sense to me. And then try to coach you up when it's your, now it's your time and you got to go out there and perform. And those coaches aren't the ones we talk about. So it is what it is. But yeah, I think that if you he coaches his entire roster and he understands it because he knows. I mean, when you get beat, he always says this in good coaches. I mean, the teams are so close. 3 or 4 plays, really probably 3, win or lose a game. And the way he plays is they always are taking away your best option and whatever, especially on defense. So who's really winning the game for you? It's maybe your lesser guy against their lesser guy.
Right. Yeah.
Like, think about it. Yeah. Like their third option or fourth option against your third guy.
This is logic that you see applied in all walks of life, in business for sure.
Yes.
You hear this as an old adage in Hollywood as well, that a movie's only as good as the weakest actor in it. Because if somebody comes and stinks up the joint in the scene that they're in, that is going to leave a lingering memory. It's going to remove that movie from potential elite status or whatever.
There it is.
It applies to so much. So going back to the main point of an expansion of the NFL, are you for it?
I am definitely for it, especially being an international guy. I think it's great, and I just think this is a great move, a great time. I'm glad that CBA is happening now to where they can focus in on this because the international growth is the key.
Hope you enjoyed the Nat Coombs Show presented by Paddy Power Fantasy. There's plenty more where that came from. Just click subscribe to ESPN UK and you won't miss a trick.